So what you have here, adding integers. Integers are any number like natural whole, but they also are the negatives. Those are the ideas. We're not doing decimals or anything like that today. The goal is to learn how to add, subtract from negative and positive numbers. There's lots of different things we need to discuss. So, let's get to our first slide here. I'm trying to turn on my little clicker. All right, first slide. We're going to add two numbers together. We did this yesterday. Now, the first thing you should check when you look at this number, are they the same type of number? Are they both positive or are they both negative?
Both positive.
They're both positive. So you'd add them together, right? No matter what. If they're both the same type of number, you would add them together, right? So to add these together, this is what I want to see on paper today. That you're actually put them in column method, that you stack them on top of each other. I don't care the order you put them, as long as that you know how to do the column. You're adding straight down, so this is going to make 12. Carry the 1, you always carry the second digit to the next column. You'd add straight down and we get 52. There's your answer, right? That's column method. You start on the right side, you're doing this right side first to get the 2, and if another number carries over, you're adding that to the next column going down. If you have to fill in any numbers, now that was an easy one, I think we just went through that yesterday. Is there any questions with the comments or concerns about adding?
Who doesn't know about it?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, moving on to the next one. All right, so the next one. So now what we're going to start to look at, this is the idea of your homework, right? So I'm going to be giving you a bunch of these. I'm not going to make you do all of these. This is the idea. You can add numbers together. All these are adding because they're all the same type of number. And you just stack them on top of each other. It doesn't matter which one you pick. They're all the same style. Questions, concerns about adding?
Why didn't you just stack them on the paper? Like on the
I don't
homework?
know, that's just the way they write it, so it fits better. I don't know. I always find that weird, like, yeah, because in most math textbooks, that's how they type it. I think it's just a convenience thing. Okay. Questions, though? That was good. Okay, I'm gonna move on. I think we did these enough yesterday. If you need more practice with that, I'll go through with you, but again, you just stack, you start on the right side, move left.
What if
Okay.
we just, no, we can just do it in our head?
I still wanna see, no, I still wanna see that you're still doing it. Yeah. I know you can do it in your head, but you can write it down. Okay, now here's the idea. These are the ones I believe we ended with yesterday. We ended with negative numbers where they're the same type. These are still adding numbers, but they're both negatives, right? Both numbers are negative each time. You still add them together. The answer will be negative because they're both negative. They don't cancel each other out. That's not how this works. They're both negatives. They have that plus between them. You would still add them together. You still do a column. I'll do the 16 and 44 here. Since they're both negative, I know my answer will be negative in the end. You just stack them on top of each other and add them together. I know that seems really weird because the numbers are negatives, but they're both negatives. So you're just making a bigger negative number. So you add, this makes a 10, carry the 1 across. You add these together, you get 6. So 60, negative 60. I am checking today, when you do these, are you getting the right digit and is it positive or negative? That's the thing I am checking for. Okay, questions if they're both negative numbers. Okay, now so far, these are all the straightforward ones. We did these yesterday. Just to give you a refresher if you know your answer is negative versus if you know it's positive. The last type of problem I want you to know today is when they're different. So, it's when the numbers, one of them's negative and one of them's positive. This type of idea. These are the ones you actually have to think about because it depends on which number is the bigger number, right, in terms of absolute value. So, since they're different from each other, that one's negative, that one's positive, you are going to subtract them. One's positive, one's negative, you subtract. So what's 9 and you take away 3? 6. Now, which number is bigger? The 9 or the negative 3 in terms of absolute value? 9. And the 9 is a positive number, so your answer is positive. Again, it depends on which number is bigger. So in the second problem here, since these are different, you'd subtract 10 minus 4, which is 6. But since the 10 is technically a bigger number, when you do the absolute value, your answer is negative. Whatever number's bigger. If they're opposites, you subtract, and then you figure out which number's the larger of the two numbers. Does that make sense how I figure out which one's positive versus negative? That's the easiest way I can teach you how to do it. That's the way I remember learning it in elementary days. It's just one of those things, like some people just need to hear that you just, if they're opposites, you subtract, and whatever number's bigger, that's the sign that you're gonna have. Now, the only thing I didn't put on the slide, I don't think I put if you had a double negative sign. I don't think I had that in the next. I didn't. No, okay, so, I'm gonna go back to this. So I'm gonna just write down a problem that you need to see. I didn't put it in the slideshow, I didn't know if I did or not. All right, here's something I'd like you to write down. I'm just gonna stick with something easy. This is something that you just need to know. If they're double negatives, like where they're back-to-back negative signs, these two negative signs cancel each other out. It's one of those things that some people just don't know. It's called the definition of subtraction. That when you subtract the negative, you're actually just adding the two numbers together. It's one of those things like the two negative signs cancel each other out when they're physically touching each other. And so in this case, now that the numbers are the same type of number, one's positive 4, one's positive 3, you can just add these together and you get 7. And it is positive 7. The double negative sign, it's this weird quirky rule where you're doing the opposite of a negative. That's actually what it stands for. So it's definition of subtraction or opposite of a negative, which is positive. All right, questions on the double negative sign? Okay, the problem I'd like you to attempt, I'm gonna get rid of this. The problem I'd like you to attempt today on your paper is, I'm gonna do a double negative here, and this is just something I think we need practice on. I want you to write down this problem. So negative 16 minus a negative 23. I'd like you to write down this problem. We're gonna do 2 or 3 of these today, and these are my last 2 problems. I want you to get some practice with double negatives.
Well, that's the,
So no, so that's the thing. So the middle will be adding because the double negative signs will cancel, right? So when we first look at this problem, we can see that we have the double negative right here. So what happens in this location is this becomes a plus. Now to answer the question that Angel had here, are we adding those two numbers together? No, because technically they're opposites, right? This number's a negative, this number's a positive. They're opposites, one's negative, one's positive, so you always have to subtract them. If they're opposite types of numbers, you have to subtract. So I'm doing 23 and I'm taking away 16. Right? I always put the bigger number on the top when I know that, but I'm subtracting. So now, this is the case where we have to talk about, we have to borrow, right? The top number, we always start on the right side and you work your way to the left. The top number has to be bigger than the bottom. So since the 3, I can't go 3 minus 6. I'm going to borrow from the 2, making that a 1, making this a 13. So because when you borrow, you have to carry that number over. What is 13 minus 6?
7.
7. 1 minus 1 is 0, so your answer is just 7. Now, to figure out if it's positive or negative, yeah, you have to look at which number is the bigger of the two numbers. Well, the bigger number is the 23, so your answer is going to be a positive 7. The bigger number tells you what your sign is in the end. Does everyone understand the concept here, what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay, you're trying to first figure out, are you adding or subtracting the two numbers together? So that comes down to, are they opposites? Are they the same digit? Then once you figure out your answer, you have to figure out what your final sign is going to do. Okay, the next one, what you write down, I'm going to walk around, I'm going to check everyone's paper. I want to see that everyone's going to do this right. Here we go, we have 8 minus negative 32. All right, so here's your example. I want to see this on paper. I know it's simple, straightforward. I want to see what you come up with. I want to see everything that you're doing. I'm going to leave my example on the board. So that's the problem I'd like you to do right there. So put it in your notes. I'm going to walk around when you have it. I'm just going to check just to make sure I can see the actual work here. I got to say it right or wrong. I just want to see what you're doing. If you need paper, there's paper in the back, I have white paper back. If you have your notes down, we'll go check. So still, a few people need to write, so I'm still gonna wait some people, I'll give you some more time here. Give everyone a little bit of chance. All right, so, okay, everyone's got a chance to at least try it. Here's the thing. What happens with the double negative in the middle? Cancels out. So, that's the first step. This double negative here made a plus. Okay, the next thing that I have to check, because now that I got rid of this stupid double negative, the next thing, are they the same type of number? So that's the next thing I check, right? Are they the same numbers? Yeah, they're both positive numbers, right?
Oh, they're both positive.
They're both positives, you have to add them together. That's the big thing, you have to start with, cancel out the double negatives if you have that. Then I check to see if they're the same type they are, and so you just add these two together. And so the trick is, these would add, and you get 40. The most common mistake people make, they try to go 8 minus 32. It was a double negative, the negative signs canceled out. So it actually ends up being 40, not 24, negative 24. So that's the most common mistake. All right, let's do another one. This will be probably one of my last examples today. Okay. Stick with an easy one. I'm going to walk around and let them check. This is my last example today. Let's try to get used to these negative signs. Let's see your final answer in the end. That's it. Just walk around and see what people are writing. Some people still need to finish, so I'll give you a little bit of time here. I'm gonna walk around one more time to make sure everyone got a chance to get an answer. Even if I check your paper, I'm gonna check one more time to see what your answer was, to see what the most common. Remember, the goal is to figure out, number one, are you adding and subtracting the numbers together? Number two, in the very end, figure out if your answer is positive or negative. Those are the big things I wanna make sure of. I'll show you a different way to do this one in case you get a wrong answer and you're consistent in getting the wrong answer. Check one more time. Try to make sure we're getting to a final answer and we're still working. Or unless you're writing some stuff down in the dark. All right, here's my question. When we first look at the problem, are you adding or subtracting the numbers together? You're subtracting, not adding. Here's why. One's a negative, one's a positive number. This is a positive 17. That is a negative 12. Since they're opposite types of numbers, you have to subtract. I know it looks like it says adding in the middle, but you are actually comparing, are they the same type of number? That's a positive 17, that's a negative 12. you have to subtract the two from each other. So the trick is 17 minus 12, you get 7 minus 2 is 5, 1 minus 1 is 0, your answer is 5, and then I have to figure out if it's positive or negative. Well, which number is bigger, negative 12 or positive 17? Positive 17, so your answer is positive.
Oh, I don't know what you're supposed to do.
Yep. So that's what I'm checking for. Do you understand if you're adding or subtracting? So the idea is that the first step you always do, if there's a double negative, get rid of the double negative. We already know that. Then the next thing you do is you compare the numbers. If they're the same type of number, you'd add. If they're the same, if they're opposites, like this case, these are opposites, you'd have to subtract the two numbers from each other. That's the concept. All right, homework today, you have a worksheet. I would prefer that you do this with no calculator. I want to see that you can do these by hand. Now, if you need to do these problems differently, because some of these numbers are relatively small, you could do the thing where you draw bubbles. Positive, negatives, and the opposites cancel each other out. I'm betting on most people do the column method. I prefer column method. I want to see work. I don't want to just see answers on your paper. I want to see this type of stuff that you're doing to get your answer. Okay? All right. These are due on Thursday, so you have a couple days to work on this. You can move around the room once you get your handout here. Put your name on it. Number one. Some people tend to forget that. Put your name on it.
About us doing stuff. Hi, Mackie. He said that he said that you're super annoying. You didn't have to go up there and tell about it.
What? Shut up.
Second one.
Yeah, I can get that.
Oh, really? Saying.
Nonsense.
That's all.
So which college would you do for your dad's house?
Yeah.
You don't know how to do it?
Okay, here you go, Tricia. Sorry. Yep. Okay, just remember, they're the same type of number you'd add, but in this case, these are opposites, you had to subtract the two numbers. Should not need a calculator. Remember, don't just do Team Xerox, actually write down your work that you're trying to do.
I have 311 for this one.